What is up? It's your boy, Imprayer. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Hope it was a good day. We're gonna get things kicked off, started right here real quick. We're gonna be reacting to a video from Company Man again, the same one as yesterday. 1.45 million subscribers. Wow, man, been on a grind. Got some good content from yesterday. It was really interesting. I learned a lot about Nestle, so it's a pretty cool video to react to. So today we're going to be reacting to the decline of Pizza Hut. What happened? Speaking of which, I don't even know the last time I saw Pizza Hut. There used to be a big one right around the corner for me, but it's not there anymore. So yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and hop right into
Pizza Hut
this.
is what I would consider an iconic American brand. Thinking back, they were kind of like the perfect family restaurant. Honestly, how many of you watching this have these great memories of eating there with your family? Maybe you had your birthday party there, or maybe you participated in their Book It reading program where you earned one of those colorful pins, or my favorite, a personal pan pizza. It would sure take a lot to get that pizza, but it was on another level.
That sounds
I'm sure
pretty
that many
good
of
right
us
now.
have similar memories involving Pizza Hut, which is why it's upsetting to see them like this. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that they are in any immediate danger of shutting down. Pizza Hut is still pretty stable, and I'm guessing that they are going to be with us for quite a while. But I do have strong evidence to suggest that Pizza Hut has seen better days. In 2019, they announced that they would be closing 500 of their 7,500 US locations over the next 2 years. It's part of their long-term plan that involves closing underperforming restaurants and replacing them. I'll touch more on it later, but for the time being, that is a significant downsizing. In fact, the president of the company, along with other top executives, have expressed that they haven't been happy with Pizza Hut's overall
Interesting.
performance. Looking at their sales over the past few years, they have actually been fairly consistent, which may not seem like much of an issue, but it is concerning. See, when we compare that to Domino's, I think we start to see the problem. When they say that no one outpizzas the Huts, I don't exactly know what that means, but it might not be true anymore. In the 1970s, and even well into the 1980s, anyone who was around at the time
That's
can
funny.
tell you that Pizza Hut used to be the national pizza chain. They were a national pizza chain before there were national pizza chains. People had to make the choice of either going to the local regional place or to Pizza Hut. Any other popular chain that you can think of today was not a factor on a national scale until at least the 1980s. Then, over those next few decades, things got more competitive. Some of those smaller chains started closing the gap, but Pizza Hut still remained on top. That is, until 2018. As we saw in the graph, Domino's took over that #1 spot, and over the next few years have only extended that lead. That's meaningful. After
Where do you
47
get your
years, the
pizza
world's
from?
#1 pizza chain, Pizza Hut, has fallen to second place, and a distant second at that. In that same year, 2018, I actually asked the audience of this channel, what is your favorite of the big four pizza chains? And after 46,000 votes, Domino's was the clear winner over the second
I go
place
to
Pizza Hut. I
Domino's
believe
and
further
Papa
suggesting that
John's.
people have moved away from them. More evidence would be the fact that their biggest franchisor, NPC International, filed for bankruptcy in July of 2020. They were the ones who operated about 20% of the US Pizza Hut locations. Of course, there were some other factors involved in that one, but it's not a good indicator of the state of the brand. Plus, it later led to an additional 300 restaurant closings. And then finally, what about the
Goodness.
logo change?
That is insane.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it right now. I think I found the
That's
single
crazy.
biggest productivity
That
hack of
is
2021.
really crazy, man.
Throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, this was their logo. Then, in 1999, they changed it. They added more colors and slanted everything. But then, 20 years later, in 2019, they went back to that old logo. According to their chief brand officer at the time, embracing our iconic Pizza Hut logo is recognition of a time period where Pizza Hut unequivocally reigned supreme because that's where the future is headed. I take that to mean that the old logo represents a better time for Pizza Hut, and that bringing it back will remind the customers of those better times. I hope that we can at least agree that Pizza Hut has indeed seen better times. They've lost a lot of control of their market, and in this video, I'm going to attempt to explain why. The very first Pizza Hut opened in Wichita, Kansas in 1958, and it could not have been more modest in the beginning. It was two brothers named Frank and Dan Carney. They borrowed $600 from their mom and used it to buy used equipment and rent out a small building not too far from a university. I thought it was interesting that they called their first restaurant Pizza Hut mostly because they obtained this sign that had only enough room for so many letters. And of course they wanted to use the word pizza, so that meant that their second word can only be 3 letters. They eventually settled on the word hut, and that was the beginning of the brand. If they had a bigger sign, things may have gone much differently. Early on, they valued quality pizza, good service, and believed in it so much that on their opening night, they gave away their pizzas to try to attract a customer base. It was an effective promotion, the restaurant did well, and after about a year, they were able to convince a friend of theirs to operate the first franchise location in Topeka, Kansas. It's also worth mentioning that part of their marketing early on involved this, I guess, stereotypical mascot named Pizza Pete. I believe that it was meant to double as a fun cartoon for the kids, while promoting the Italian authenticity of their food. Pizza itself wasn't nearly as well known or popular at the time, so something like that was effective in drawing in customers and creating a fun environment. They adopted that red roof logo, started designing their restaurants in the same manner, and continued franchising more and more locations across the United States and even into other countries like Canada and Germany, and by 1971, Pizza Hut had over 1,000 locations, making them the biggest chain of pizza restaurants in the world. 6 years later, when they had more than doubled to over 2,000 locations, they were bought by PepsiCo, and it was Pepsi that was able to take them to an even higher level, surpassing 5,000 locations in less than a decade after the acquisition, and surpassing 7,500 locations when they spun it off along with the rest of the restaurant division into its own company that was owned by the public. If you want more details about their time with Pepsi and what was happening with all of that, I do recommend this other video that I made about Pepsi, but that new company that it was now a part of was initially called Tricon Global Restaurants, but soon renamed to Yum Brands, which is how they exist today. Right now, it consists mainly of KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell, though some people have expressed the opinion that Pizza Hut has been the one holding them back and should be divested. Now, when looking at the reasons behind the trouble happening at Pizza Hut, I think most of it can be explained by 2 main issues. The first one being a lack of catchy menu items, and I realize that this might sound so trivial when you first hear it, but let me explain. Today, seemingly every fast food restaurant has a never-ending sequence of new items that are pumpkin-flavored or Cheeto-flavored or whatever, but Pizza Hut was somewhat of a pioneer at this, to a point where I would even say that these catchy, innovative menu items were once a major part of their success. A couple of examples of what I would consider to be more gimmicky ones would be the Edge, with toppings way closer to the edge of the pizza than they should be, or the Big New Yorker, both introduced in the late 1990s. They sold pretty well and kept people coming back to Pizza Hut, but then there's other examples of new menu items that they introduced that I would truly call innovative. Some examples there would be in 1980 when they came out with the pan pizza, or in 1995 when they came out with the stuffed crust pizza, famously promoted by Donald Trump. There are countless examples to show how Pizza Hut once had one of the most creative menus out there, which unfortunately may not be the case anymore. In late 2014, you may be surprised to hear this, but Pizza Hut announced an all-new menu. They called it Flavor of Now and described it as their biggest brand evolution ever. I mean, this was meant to be a big deal. They had new ingredients, new sauces, new crust flavors, new drizzles, just a bold attempt to completely revamp their entire menu to make it appear fresh and more upper scale. And to go along with that new menu, they updated their website, the boxes, the uniforms, the logo. I think that the goal of this was to shift their customer base away from families and more specifically toward millennials. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that most of you barely remember this happening, or maybe not at all, because the whole Flavor of Now attempt was pretty much a failure. As we've already seen, it did nothing at all to help their sales. If anything, they actually went down a tiny bit the following year. The CEO of Yum Brands confirmed that the results were disappointing, and as far as I could tell, it's mostly been abandoned. If anything, it probably just alienated their existing customers more than anything else. Overall, this suggests to me that Pizza Hut is not quite what they used to be in introducing new menu items that appeal to their customers. I'm just saying that the Bigfoot pizza was a little more successful than the Cockadoodle bacon. That's a weird sentence. The second part of their troubles, I believe, it can be attributed to being slow to delivery. And I don't mean taking over 30 minutes to deliver a pizza so then it's too cold. I mean taking too long to make pizza delivery, in general, a major part of their business. Here's what I mean. Historically, pizza is like the most common thing to have delivered, right? I mean, now more than ever, but it's been happening for a while. Before 2020, before online shopping, before any of it, people were having pizzas delivered. However, Pizza Hut was once famous for their family-friendly family-friendly, sit-down restaurants. In the beginning of this video, when you were thinking back to those memories of birthday parties and personal pan pizzas, which is another Pizza Hut innovation by the way, they took place inside of a Pizza Hut, not at home eating pizza delivered by Pizza Hut. It was like an event, it was an outing, it was not just about the food. In fact, they didn't even offer pizza delivery at a large scale until 1986, and the only reason they did it then was because Domino's had been so successful with it. You might even say that Pizza Hut's lack of delivery during those times is a big reason that Domino's was even able to get their foot in the door in the first place. I do have to say that after a late start, they have been aggressive with it, but I think the issue is that it's such a fundamental change as far as the public's perception. They've had all of these crazy marketing attempts to try to make people associate Pizza Hut with delivery. In 1989, they famously delivered pizza to the White House. In 2001, they delivered it into outer space. In 2016, they delivered it onto Mount Kilimanjaro. When they closed those 500 locations, the reason for it was to eliminate the dining area and to reopen them as smaller buildings. Their fastest growing store models are the smaller ones that they call Delco, short for delivery and carryout, and part of their reasoning is that if every time you see a Pizza Hut, it's a little tiny building, you're going to reconfigure your mind and associate them with delivery. So to summarize all of this, Pizza Hut is a very different place than it used to be. They've been around for long enough to have the world change around them. Parts of what made them popular before are no longer relevant, and they've been forced to adapt to those changes. Whereas some of their competitors, like Domino's or Little Caesars, first grew in that new environment, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like Pizza Hut is the older generation, struggling to fit in with the new one. Some of their attempts to do it do seem to be a little slow or potentially misguided, but they are attempts. They know where they need to go, they just don't know exactly how to get there, which gives me confidence that they will eventually make progress in the right direction. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about Pizza Hut? How have they changed over the years, and how has your perception of them changed? Do you even like their pizzas, or do you prefer one of their competitors?
I never get my Pizza Hut from Pizza Hut, but, you know, I personally go to Domino's or Papa John's, but hey, that's me. You guys do you. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.